Hello, everyone, and welcome to the May 20th, 2016. That is right, a very rare Friday edition, episode number 65 of Balls Deep Sports Talk. I am your host with the one and only Scotty Ball. Thanking you very much for finding it possible to, at least hopefully get through a week without going balls deep on Sports Talk with me, as I, for the first time ever in the 64-week history of the show, last week took the week off. It was by no means pre-planned or, free choice even for that matter. It was just a matter of necessity. I appreciate all of my devoted, longtime listeners for understanding, and like I said, hopefully finding other means to get through their week. But alas, never fear, Balls Deep is back, baby, and deeper than ever. Well, I don't know about that, but with 2 weeks now of sports topics that we haven't discussed together, we have plenty to talk about on this week's show. Now, having said that, we are very much going to try and keep it to a 60 to 90 minute show, which means it'll likely top out at about 2 hours. But we're going to really shoot for that 60 to 90 minute mark. Going to be more of just a catching up on sports news that you may have missed and getting my, balls deep but still brief takes on the subject matter. But before we get into our topics for this week's show, let's get our shameless plugs out of the way as usual. However you're enjoying the show, whether it be SoundCloud, YouTube, or my personal favorite, the free Spreaker app, thank you as always for tuning into the show. And to take your balls deep experience even deeper, make sure to connect with yours truly both on Facebook and or Twitter. If you are on Facebook, simply search Scotty-Ball. And if you are on Twitter, our show handle is @BDST Show. And not only does that connect you directly with me then, but you'll be informed and up to date on show news that we have going on here, as well as my posting and retweeting of current sports news. And probably the best part, you have direct, easy access to all of my links featuring my interviews with former, potential, and now current members of our Minnesota Vikings, courtesy of VikingsDigitalDiaries.com. You can either go straight to the website, or if you follow me on Facebook or like and friend me, if you follow me on Twitter or like and friend me on Facebook, that's better. I always make sure to post and tweet the links of every interview that I do for VikingsDigitalDiaries.com, and this week was the 3rd week in a row that I have had a current new member of our Minnesota Vikings, and this week I had running back and Duluth native from the University of Augustana in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, C.J. Ham. And I've had the great fortune of talking with a lot of people over the past several months since I got the gig at VDD. But I have to honestly say that CJ is one of the nicest, just genuinely good people, awesome human beings that I have had the pleasure of sitting down and chatting with since beginning these interviews for VikingsDigitalDiaries.com. So make sure to go check that out. Scroll down after you listen to that on the page. Find the last one I did with Troy Stoudemire Jr., former Gopher, now current Minnesota Viking. And then scroll back and find the one I did before that with David Morgan II, 6th round tight end draft pick out of the University of Texas, San Antonio. That was probably my favorite interview, maybe, possibly, if I had to pick one that I've done so far. They've all been amazing. But that's another just really awesome one in addition to the other 2 current ones. And then if you like, keep scrolling back even further and catch up on the ones I did with Harold Morrow and Troy Williamson and Bernard Berrien and Matthew Hatcha, all kinds of players. And having properly pushed the propaganda now, how's that for alliteration? Start off the show. Let's get to the outline, the overview of what we're going to be talking about sports related this week. All right, well, on tap for sports topics this week, we will be talking NBA playoffs. As the conference finals are underway, San Antonio Spurs got upset in the second round by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're taking on the Warriors out west, and over in the east, we've got the still yet to lose a game in the playoffs Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the 2-seed Toronto Raptors, who just seem in over their heads. But in addition to that, we will be talking the MVP results and the Rookie of the Year results to get caught up on that as well. In addition to the results of the NBA Draft Lottery, which occurred just a few nights ago, and we'll discuss where everybody fell in those top 13. I think it's 13, maybe it's 14. I don't know, probably 14. Just to be safe, somewhere in between the 12 and 14. Anyway, you get the point. We'll discuss the results of the NBA Draft Lottery, where the T-Wolves will wind up picking in this upcoming draft, or, if what they might do in maybe potential trade situation with the pick as well. Who knows? All kinds of possibilities for the T-Wolves. One thing is for certain, with the current young talent we've got and new coaching regime headed by Tom Thibodeau, most if not all of the basketball fans here in Minnesota are at least optimistic for a potentially soon return to relevance, if nothing else. But in addition to NBA basketball, of course, we'll also be talking NHL hockey, as they are in the conference finals of their playoffs for Lord Stanley's Cup as well, so we will get you caught up to speed on that, in addition to discussing the Minnesota Wild's hiring of their new head coach, one Bruce Boudreau, and definitely getting my thoughts, my take on that hiring, what it means by my estimate for my and possibly your Minnesota Wild. We'll also be talking Major League Baseball as we're in full swing, terrible pun intended, of the Major League Baseball season, although it doesn't feel like it here in Minnesota because the Twins suck that bad this year. They are historically bad, at least for the franchise and from the franchise standpoint as far as worst starts ever. And it's very conceivable. No, it's inconceivable. No, it's very conceivable that the Twins, if headed down the same path, if the win-to-loss ratio stays at approximately the same rate for the rest of the season, we will be flirting with one of the worst records all time in the history of baseball, at least under the 162 game season format. So we will check in on what has all went wrong with the Twins in the show, as well as what they have all tried to change here currently and recently to right the ship, although I think there's too many holes in this ship, and they're too big to stop it from sinking. But we're Minnesota fans, so it's nothing too terribly new for us. Disappointment in the sports world, and we still love our team, so we'll give them a look here and talk about them a little bit this week, as well as taking a look around what else is going on in Major League Baseball, with a manager already being fired for his team being the only team that's as sucky or even suckier than the Minnesota Twins. There was also a pretty epic brawl between Jose Bautista and, however you say his first name, Rougned Odor. I know Odor is the last name, but so we'll talk about the brawl just a little bit as well. I'm sure you've seen highlights of the punch Batista took from Odor about 1 million times by now. But you'll get my take on that just a little bit. Not a whole lot of NFL football to discuss. We will check in on the world of college sports, primarily here in Minnesota, where we have finally, at long last, named and hired a new athletic director here at the University of Minnesota for the Golden Gophers athletic program. I will let you know who that is and kind of give you, the information I got on him and what we can hope for or expect or fear in regards to the success or lack thereof in that hiring. We'll also look at the world of professional golf. The PGA had their unofficial 5th major last week, the TPC Sawgrass Tournament, one of my favorites every year. I will be letting you know how that went down and who won that. We also got a little bit of boxing to discuss with the big Canelo versus Khan fight that took place 2 weeks ago, but again, it's been 2 weeks since we talked sports. Last week we had UFC 198, which we'll have plenty of recap for that for you fight fans. This coming weekend we've got the Preakness, the second leg in the horse racing Triple Crown going on. So if you're interested in that or not, we'll give you just a little info on that, as well as reminding you who won the Kentucky Derby just a few weeks ago. And then finally we'll squeeze in, not necessarily in any order, but we will also at some point in time squeeze in a little bit of WWE professional wrestling talk, as well as Lucha Underground and other pro wrestling talk I find relevant. And this coming Sunday we have our second pay-per-view since WrestleMania. It is basically another filler pay-per-view, but we might at least get some cool OMG moments or something at this one. It is usually known for maybe some good matches possibly as well. But the Extreme Rules pay-per-view is coming up this Sunday on WWE, so we will at least give you a look at the match card, if nothing else, for that. And that, in a nutshell, is what we're going to be trying to talk about here in a 60 to 90 minute period on this week's show. So, like I said, a lot of more news and notes trying to throw in here this week than takes per se. But you know me, I can't talk about anything without giving my take on it as well. So I'm sure there will be plenty of takes organically sprinkled in throughout the show. Alright, so that brings us to our hit opening segment of the show here that we do every week on Balls Deep Sports Talk. And if you're a loyal listener, say it with me here on 3, 2, 1, Balls on Fire. That's right, what's got me, yours truly, Scotty Ball, the most on fire, the most heated up. What's really got my blood boiling in the sports world. Plenty worthy candidates of stories, with the Twins' epic suckage definitely leading the way. Timberwolves with Big Cat winning Rookie of the Year and them getting the 5th pick in the draft as a result of this week's NBA Draft Lottery selection show. Plenty to be, talking about and excited about and optimistic about from the Wolves fan in me, as well as, what's going on in the playoffs with San Antonio losing to the Thunder, and now the Thunder winning the first game of the series against the Golden State Warriors in Golden State. Golden State won Game 2. We will get you fully caught up to speed on where things stand there later on, but no, not that. Not TPC Sawgrass, not the Gophers' new AD. Sorry, I really don't care that much about the U of M. Boxing, same deal. Just don't care that much. UFC 198. Boy, lots of... that was a great UFC pay-per-view. Could definitely start off fired up about that. But alas, Balls on Fire this week is starting off in the world of NHL hockey, primarily focusing on the Minnesota Wild's new head coach, Bruce Boudreau. Now, I know the story's about a week to 2 weeks old, but again, it's been 2 weeks. I took a week off, for crying out loud, alright? Get off my back about it. So, So I have not had